All right, looks like we're live. Hello, guys. Welcome to our 7 o'clock business. Um, Hope you guys are all doing well. I hope you guys had a nice, Easter weekend or a long weekend if you don't celebrate Easter. I know it has been a particular one, to say the least. I know it's usually a time in Italy. Easter is a pretty big holiday. I know a lot of people like to spend this time outside. Barbecues are really popular. It's kind of like the official beginning of spring. Definitely spending time with families and friends. So I imagine for a lot of you, this was not possible. But let me know, were you able to celebrate at all? What did you do? Did you cook anything? So let me know how the long weekend went as we get started. And also, if you can see there at the bottom of the screen, if you could let me know your name, let me know where you guys are writing from. It's always really nice to know who we're talking to. So yeah, so today is just me doing this focus. Sometimes we do this in pairs, but it's an individual one today. If anyone doesn't know me, I have done a few business activities at this time already, so you might have met me before, but my name is Thiago. I'm 29 years old. I am originally from Brazil, but I grew up in California. You can see my information right there. I live in Milan. I work in the Central School in Milan in Via Meravigli. And I've been working with my S as a teacher since 2016 or so. So yeah, I've been here for a while. And here in Milan, yeah, this is, I think, I lost count. It's like either the eighth or the ninth week of lockdown. So it's been quite a while. But anyway, guys, yeah, let me know if you can. I know that you do need a Google account in order to comment, but if you do have it, it would be really nice to know your names and where you guys come from. And keep in mind that there is a little bit of a delay, so if I don't see your comment right away, it will get here sooner or later. So here we go. We've got, hi, Marco. Yes, I think we've done 2 or 3 business activities together now. Nice to see you as well. My pleasure. Hope you're well. Did you have a nice Easter? Okay. Yeah, anyone else, guys, just let me know and I'll get your comments in a bit. Now, today we will be looking at some networking skills. We'll be looking at a lot of expressions, and as we've mentioned before in these activities, we do tend to focus on one skill or the other, but a lot of the information that you get can actually be applied to a range of other things that you might do. Okay, let's see here. We got Clara writing to us from Sicily, but she lives in Parma. Me and my flatmate built a small table to put outside our balcony, so we enjoyed our Easter. Ah, that's really nice, Clara. The hardest thing for me during this quarantine has been my inability to spend any time outside. Um, I luckily have a pretty large apartment considering it's in Milan, where apartments tend to be quite small. But it's on the ground floor, so I don't have any balcony, no terrace. It's been quite hard to enjoy any kind of fresh air or sunshine. So I wish I could have done the same, but I'm glad you were able to. Alessia, you're from Naples. My Easter went pretty good. A chill weekend, I can't complain. Nice to hear. I hope you guys had some nice weather in Naples. In Milan, it was certainly really nice. Again, I didn't really get to enjoy it, but I could watch it from my windows. And Marco, you spent it with your family. Great. And if I could just correct, I would say fortunately, but when we say it, we kind of eat a lot of those syllables there. So fortunately, fortunately. So it can kind of sounds like fortunately. Okay. All right, guys, fantastic. So our title for our business activity today is In the Door. We'll be looking at 3 main objectives. We'll be looking at socializing with both clients and colleagues. making small talk, and we're going to be looking at some good phrasal verbs to network, again, to talk with clients, talk to colleagues, etc. I will say, so colleagues is a good word. It's quite similar to what you use in Italian. I tend to use coworker more often. It might be more of an American usage, but keep in mind, you could say coworker, as you can see right there. And hi, Ana Lucia, welcome. Oh, Ana, yes, you're one of our students in Via Meravigli. The Lucia threw me off a bit. Welcome. So, guys, let's have a look here. I want you to think about one of your jobs. It can be your current job, can be maybe your very first job, okay? But we have Brian here. Brian is an architect, and on his first day with his new firm 2 years ago, here's what he had to say about it. So he said, "My first day, where do I even start? When I arrived, I found out that they were expecting me a week later. My contract wasn't ready. They told me to go home. Ultimately, we sorted it out and I was able to work." Okay, so that was his first experience. Maybe not the best one. But so what about you guys? What was your first day like at your job? So were you feeling nervous? Were you excited? And how did you get on? How did you interact with your colleagues, with your manager when you first started? Or, if you don't really quite remember or you don't have anything that memorable to say about it, think about when you have new hires, so new people who start at your company. How do you tend to treat them to make them feel welcomed? So again, today we're talking about networking skills, and that's like a type of networking is when we have new people starting at your company. So let us know. And Alessia, luckily we had a perfect, oh, great. Very nice. Yeah, I think here was pretty good as well. I think it was like 25 degrees or so. So nice. Yeah, I remember. So when I first started my job at Mayes, I remember actually being quite nervous because, now I only teach. But when I first started, I was one of the didactic managers in the company, one of the biggest schools, the one where I teach now in Milan. And and I joined the school as a manager directly, so I didn't get to start as a teacher and then move up to becoming a manager. And so I remember being quite nervous about having to help the other teachers with the method and really be a guide for them when I didn't really know the method that well myself. So I remember that it was a very steep learning curve. I had a lot to kind of learn, incorporate, to then also serve as a role model. But everyone was very friendly. I did receive very good training, good feedback, so that by the time I actually started in my school, I was feeling more prepared. And the fact that, as you guys know, people at Mayes are all very friendly. So it was a pretty positive experience, despite the initial, no, not really fear, but I guess I was a bit nervous. So let's see. Clara says, "I enjoyed my first day of my actual job. I was both excited and nervous, but my colleagues are easygoing and friendly, so they explained me everything. They also presented me to other coworkers." Fantastic, Clara. I would give you some tiny corrections. Again, we're just correcting you guys so that you can get the most out of this, but very good comment. So I would say, instead of my actual job, I think you mean your current job. So current is what we use for the at the moment. I know it's a false friend with Italian, but actual in English means real. So I think you want to say your current job. And instead of saying they presented me, it's better to say they introduced me, because to present is almost if you're like showcasing something. Ta-da! That's like presenting. But introduce is to make someone know to introduce someone, kind of present, yeah. But we don't usually say present in this context. We would say introduce. The co-workers of the same building, but it was an embarrassed situation when someone is new. Yeah, exactly. We say that you're under the microscope. You feel under the microscope, right? Everyone is, yeah, they're like watching you. You feel judged. It's normal, I think, to kind of feel this way. Marco says, I did the job interview in a food market while my future boss was buying the fish. There was a friendly atmosphere in the office. They cooked, sometimes for everyone, and we had a kitchen. Really interesting, Marco. You might have told me before. I don't quite remember now, but what do you do? What's your job? Especially since it was in a future market. Do you do like acquisitions, like food acquisitions? Yeah, let me know because I don't recall exactly. All right, guys. Anyone else? Just keep typing, okay? We're just going to move ahead here so we can get to everything. All right. So here we are looking at a case study so we can kind of look at the situation a little bit more specifically. So we have this startup. We have a tech company, Alpha Apps. So let's read about them. So Alpha Apps is a London-based app developer looking to expand into the gaming world. A prerequisite for a growing company is a growing staff to keep up with the expanding workload. Alpha has just hired new programmer Akron Benedict. He wants to hit the ground running and get on well with his colleagues. But first, he needs to win them over and make good impressions. So before we consider the question that we have down there, I would ask you guys to first ask any questions if you don't know any of the vocabulary there. If you do know everything, if you could maybe let me know the meaning of the words that we see in red or the underlined phrases. So that was my previous job in a production company. So nothing to do with food. Okay, so it just happened to have been at a food market then. Okay, awesome. Cool. So let me know, guys, the meaning of prerequisite, to hit the ground running, to keep up with, to get on, and to win over. We got 5 expressions here. All right, Alessia, let's see. So you answered the question from before. On my first day, I was feeling very tense because I knew that my ex-boss was very strict and quick-tempered. Nonetheless, I tried to act the best way I could, and I also found nice coworkers. Great. Very nice and accurate sentence there. I liked how you incorporated the compound adjective, quick-tempered, in use of co-workers. So again, you can use co-workers or colleagues. Yeah, nicely done. And who immediately made me feel integrated. Great. Great. Yeah, you can say they welcomed you with open arms. It's another expression you can use. They can say they made me feel at home. It's another good one. Good. All right. So it seems like most of you guys had a pretty positive experience starting. Of course, there's some nerves, maybe you're a bit insecure when you're first starting, but that's normal. So let's see. Marco says to get on is the same as get along. You're absolutely right. In fact, personally, I say to get along. It might be a British versus American difference. I'm not sure, but I say get along. And that means you have a good relationship with someone. Exactly. Exactly. Prerequisite, okay, that's the same as in Italian, so that's good. To keep up with, yeah, it's exactly being updated, being up to date, right? If something is moving and you're trying to keep up with it, you're trying to maintain a similar pace. You're trying to make sure that you're not behind in any way, right? So just to go back to the text, then they're saying that a prerequisite to open and to work in this technology company is to be able to have a staff that can keep up with the expanding workloads. You see, the workload is going to keep expanding, and the staff needs to be able to maintain the same pace of this growth. So good, good, good. To hit the ground running and win over. So we got 2 left here. That's, yeah, Clara. So to win over, to convince, it can mean to convince someone, to win someone over, is to convince them. In this case, I guess it's a little bit lighter than like to full on convince, but yeah, you need to win them over to kind of bring them to your side. So sure, it's kind of that idea. You want to win them over and make good impressions. Yeah. So it can be convinced, but it can also be a little bit lighter because convince can seem a bit harsh sometimes, but it can also be lighter. Good. And to hit the ground running, that's the only one that we're missing here. So Clara, so you say, so hit the ground running could be being the first to do something, sort of. So if you hit the ground running, it's basically, yeah, Galesi also says to start with enthusiasm. Yeah, it's basically to be able to, start quickly. As in, you can already start and show your value, start contributing right away. Okay, so it would be the opposite of having like a really slow start. Okay, so yeah, so Akron, he's starting his new job and he wants to hit the ground running. He wants to start the job at a good pace. He wants to show his contribution. So he's gonna hit the ground running. He's not gonna hit the ground walking. That's kind of the idea. All right. So if anything is unclear in this text, please just let me know, guys. But I think, yeah, it seems pretty good. If you guys already got the trickier words, I think the rest are easier. So in your experience, how does getting on or getting along with your colleagues affect workflow? Have you had a really positive experience in which you really got on with your colleagues and you have seen how beneficial that was to maybe completing a project, or the opposite, maybe if there was a clash, if you didn't get on with a colleague or maybe other people didn't get on with each other, did that really slow the project, and if so, how? So if you can give any feedback here, let me know. We will, of course, I'm just going to move on while you think about that, just so we can look at some more vocabulary. We'll have a look. Okay, so we're going to continue with the same situation. So we have Akron. Okay, so he just started at Alpha Apps, and it's his first day, and he's having some different interactions with some people. So the first person that he interacts with is Stephanie Tran, and she is a sales specialist. So Stephanie, she looks at his resume. Oh, and by the way, a resume it's the American version of a CV. It might be used in other places as well, not only in the US, but yeah, a resume, I think the big difference between that and a CV is that it really tends to be short. It comes from French, like a summary. A resume is usually only one page. If you have loads of experience, then maybe you might have 2 pages. But the idea is that it's not a full account of your working career, but rather that you have consider the job you're applying for, and then you will choose the work experiences, any courses you have taken, whatever is relevant to that position. And so it's something that is a little bit more catered. It's more unique to the job you're applying for. It's one page detailing how you would be a good contribution, to that company and for that specific role. So Stephanie says, you've got quite the resume for your age. Where do you think you'll be in 5 years? So that's what she asks Aaron on his first day, or Akron. He says, in 5 years, let me get my crystal ball. Well, when I started my last job, I had difficulty keeping up with the workload. Eventually, I settled into it and understood my role. With some hard work, I picked up the skills necessary. In 5 years, I don't know where I'll be, but I want to keep improving. So in the text, we have expressions for these 3 phrases here. So to stay up to date, to obtain or to learn something, and to feel comfortable. So if you guys could please identify it in the text and let me know in the comments. And then in the meantime, let's see. Clara says, yeah, it's beneficial, definitely. I experienced both environments. In my previous job, I don't get well. So maybe just put it in the past there. I didn't get well with my colleagues due to different ages, and I didn't work well. Maybe it didn't work well, like the situation didn't work well. Or maybe you were not able to work well because of that. Okay. And now I have a great team, and it's helpful to achieve best results. We collaborate and help each other, and it influenced positively my mood and my way to work. Yeah. Yes, sometimes, having a large age gap can be difficult to overcome, especially in more traditional environments. From experience working in Italy in previous jobs, I have noticed a little bit of that. See, when I first started teaching here, I worked in a high school, and I was 22. I was a teaching assistant of 22 years old, and I felt like I really had to prove myself to the older teachers who didn't really take me seriously at first. Who maybe thought I was too naive or I wasn't qualified enough. So it was definitely a challenge. And I think it did, in certain ways, it hindered me. It kind of held me back. But it was also a good opportunity for me to really prove myself, So it was, in a certain way, stimulating. But I can see that if you're working together and you have to collaborate more directly, it can be a difficulty for sure. And Alessia says, I think coworkers are a crucial factor. If they're kind and collaborative, you can feel free to ask for confrontation or share ideas. Also, I think it's been proven that happy workers are more productive. Definitely, yeah. Good. Yeah, thanks for the contribution here, guys. Very nice. Okay, so I'm just going to slowly show you guys the answers. I know they're probably coming. There's just a bit of a delay. So to stay up to date, we have right up here, which we already kind of talked about before, right? So to keep up with, so yeah, to maintain the pace of something. Then we have this one, to obtain something or to learn something. So this one we see right up here. So to pick up, which, yeah, perfect, which you guys are just typing here now. Yeah, pickup can be something physical, but you can also pick up a skill. Okay, you can certainly pick up English, something like that. And feel comfortable, excellent, Clara, to settle in. To settle, exactly. You settle into a situation, you kind of feel at home, you feel like you're just part of that environment, you don't feel like an outsider anymore. Cool. All right, so let's see if you guys don't have any questions. We're going to look at the second conversation that Akron had that day. And he talked to Jenna Mazda from HR. And Jenna said to him, "Every day is a battle here. How did you deal with project problems at your old job?" To which Akron says, "Sure, we ran into problems here and there. I remember a few years ago, our biggest client wanted to cancel a project after months of work. I kid you not, I thought it was a joke. At the end of the day, we managed to integrate the old project with their new requests. It wasn't easy, but we figured out a way to make it work." So we got two more expressions that that I want you to find here. So to find a solution and to encounter. Yeah, some of these reactions I think that Akron is getting feels more like a job interview than anything else. I would feel really, I don't know, I guess it's kind of like scary, you know, if like your first day of your job, you're being asked these like interview questions almost by like all your different colleagues. So yeah, so to find a solution and to encounter. Yes, Marco, here and there, sometimes, occasionally, exactly. Yeah, we ran into problems here and there. Occasionally, sometimes. Very good. Yes, Clara. So to encounter something is you run into. Good. You can run into problems. You can run into a person. If you're not expecting it. I ran into my good friend at the restaurant. See, I wasn't expecting to see him, but I saw him. So yeah, to run into. And then to find a solution, exactly, to figure out. Yeah. Really used and useful expressions. Both of them, they're used so much. Of course, the thing with phrasal verbs, guys, I know it's not your favorite. It's probably the single most difficult thing in English when you're trying to master the language, just because we have so many phrasal verbs. But remember that you have to take them slowly. It's good that you're also looking at phrasal verbs in a specific context. So see, right now we're looking at different phrasal verbs that we can see when you're starting a new job, when you're meeting new people in a more professional context. What you definitely should avoid, I think the two biggest mistakes that people do when trying to learn phrasal verbs is one, trying to learn too many at a time. Two, trying to approach it without any kind of context. So I've seen people, for example, try to learn all phrasal verbs with get, and there are so many different meanings, and there are so variations of get, and they're not even related. So take it slowly, one or two phrasal verbs a day, and remember that you don't necessarily need to be using them right away. It's more about understanding. There are usually there's usually an equivalent that comes from Latin. So, if you speak Italian, if you speak French, Spanish, or whatever, it's easy for you to find an alternative. But native speakers will be using phrasal verbs a lot. So it's more something that you need to understand well, more than necessarily needing to use. But, if you can start incorporating it slowly into your language, definitely do that. But just remember, there's no pressure, okay? So just do it slowly and don't pressure yourself way too much here. Okay, all right, let's move on if you don't have any other questions. Then Akron meets Christine Kosicki, who is the lead programmer of the company. And she says to him, "We like switching programmers from project to project. At your old job, did you move around? And he says, I mostly did server maintenance and risk analysis, but sometimes they would need extra help on product development. I was always mortified and felt like giving up immediately. But you know what? Somewhere deep inside this brain of mine, there is a little creativity. It was a great experience, and I really got on with my colleagues, or I really got on with colleagues that I normally never worked with. Okay, so this second one here we already did, but we have this first one, to stop doing something. Yep, exactly. Perfect. So to stop means to give up and to have a good relationship. We already saw that before. To get on with, or as Marco told us, you can also say to get along with. All right. If there are any other questions that you see here, let me know. I'm trying to see if there is anything in particular. Okay, here, Marco, mortified. We have the same word, but I think it has a different meaning. In Italian, it means very sorry. Mortified, it could be if you're very sorry. Like if you say something that you shouldn't have, it's like, oh gosh, I'm mortified. I can't believe I said that. It's more, the idea of being in a really unpleasant situation. That's how you feel. If it's a really so in this case, obviously, if you say something wrong, you are very sorry. So you're mortified by the unpleasantness of the situation. Mortified, horrified, quite similar. Horrified. Okay. So let's just bring it all together. So just one last time with these phrasal verbs, guys. Let's just kind of match them with the equivalent here. So see here we got the phrasal verbs, and here we have some, a lot of them, as you can see: cooperate, encounter, obtain, comfortable. They do have a similar. They're similar enough to Latin, so they're similar enough to Italian, French, or Spanish. So yeah, let's just do this matching exercise, and then we'll kind of move on and get you guys to give us some examples and kind of use them in different contexts. Okay, thanks, Anna. Yeah, there's a bit of a delay sometimes in the comments, but keep them coming, all right? So that way you're participating. So to figure out, very good, guys, to find a solution. To get on with is to cooperate with, to have a good relationship with. To settle into, to feel comfortable. To run into means to encounter. To pick up is to obtain or learn, exactly, especially if we're talking about a skill. To give up, do we have that one? Give up, give up, give up. Yes, to stop doing something. Perfect. And to keep up with, of course, the last one. Stay up to date. That's it. Perfect. Okay, excellent, guys. Very good. Now, let's see if you guys, I want you to use them in your own sort of context. So think about the last time you ran into a problem. How did you feel? Did you feel like giving up? Did you manage to figure it out? Was one of the issues that, I don't know, it was difficult to get on with a colleague? Was it a challenge of settling into an office? I don't know. Okay, so think about an issue that you had, or feel free to come up, invent your own examples that are not really based on any real life events. But most importantly, let's try to use these verbs in a more kind of, full-on sentences into paragraphs, so that it's not just single phrases, here and there. So give it a go. It doesn't have to be super, super long, just one paragraph would be good, but do try to give us information, try to explain the context. And of course, I think you guys are already doing this, so it's pretty good, but keep in mind that phrasal verbs, they work like any regular verb, as in you do have to conjugate them. Okay, so make sure that if you're using the present perfect, that you're putting the verb in the past participle, or if you're using past simple, whatever it is, just be mindful of that as well. Okay, so yeah, just take whatever time, if you need a few minutes, just let us know what kind of issue you have run into. Give us some detail. Try to incorporate some of those phrasal verbs. All right. All right, so Clara has a very relevant and current problem. So you're saying that due to the spread of the coronavirus, one of my clients decided to withdraw his contract after he had signed it. I'm still trying to figure this problem out by finding an agreement that doesn't damage both parties. Exactly. Perfect. Perfect. Very good. Yeah, it's a big issue, right? With the virus in general, in terms of like signed contracts and maintaining that agreement, because we do have extraordinary circumstances going on. One of the things that I'm personally dealing with at the moment are flights. I've booked a series of flights before the outbreak, and some of them, they have already been canceled. Some of them have not. But one thing is that I have found is some airlines, and I'm not even just saying the low cost airlines, even regular ones, they are refusing to give refunds, even though that is what the European Union kind of requires them to do, is they have to provide refunds. A lot of them are only offering travel vouchers. But in my case, I guess it's not so bad because hopefully I will use those flights sooner or later. But I guess there's some people who won't be in Europe who won't be able to use those flights anymore, and even they are having issues getting any kind of refund. And of course, the other risk is if the airline does go bankrupt, then that money is gone. So it's a risk. I think it's a big difficulty a lot of people, a lot of companies are facing in the moment. And I think you kind of hit the nail on the head there, Clara. So finding an agreement that doesn't damage both parties. So to find a compromise that works for both sides. A nice word, both parties. Really good. Marco says, I often run into phrasal verbs and it's difficult to pick up the meaning of some of them, but I don't give up. I try to keep them in mind, associating them to context. For example, the film I watched, which contained the verb. There you go. Nice, Marco. I love how your problem is the problem of phrasal verbs. That's great. Yeah, and that's good. It's about making associations in your mind, even if they're silly, even if they actually don't really relate to the meaning. If it helps you remember, it helps you remember. Period. That's what matters. So nicely done. Alessia says, giving up is a solution I never take into consideration. I always try to learn from the ones who are more experienced than me. And also being a lawyer, I try to keep up with all the new laws, maybe, to figure out the best solution for my clients. Great, great. Yeah, also, Alessia, I would imagine that being a lawyer, again, I think the current period, brings a lot of challenges here. There are certain laws in places, but then how do you take into account the circumstances? I'm sure it's really tricky. Alessia, what kind of law do you practice? Are you more like civil law, corporate law, criminal law? So give us a little bit of context. Really nice and really good examples of the phrasal verbs here. Okay, if you're still writing some examples, guys, keep them coming. We're going to do one final activity here. We can still use them. So let's fill in the blanks with the best expression, with the best phrasal verb that we ran into, that we came across today. So I'll just read the sentences in the meantime, and you let me know the blanks. So what was the last problem you blank at work? How did you blank? How long did it take you to blank your job? When did you realize it? What is a skill you have blank at your current job? Did you learn it fast? Have you ever felt the desire to blank on something at work when things became too difficult? And when you have too much work, or when you have too much to do, how do you blank your workload? I see, Alexa. So you do civil and company and corporate law. Okay, so quite complex. Yeah, I know. In Italy, I know civil law can be particularly complex here. I have a good friend who's a notary public, and yeah, from what he's told me, it seems very, very complex. Anna, I often ran into problems at work, and I try to figure them out. I would say, by asking for help to my boss or try to find the best solution with my coworkers directly. Good. And I would also say, Anna, because you're talking about something that happens often, and they're kind of still ongoing, maybe keep the present simple in that case. So I often run into problems. Because you see, I try to figure them out. So it's still, I think, something that is part of the present, right? So keep present simple, perhaps. So Marco, the first one, I guess that's the, yeah. So what was the last problem you ran into at work? Excellent. And how did you Nice, Alessia, and good job incorporating it into it. Marco as well, figuring it out. Good. So Marco, I'm not sure if this you mean the second blank. If so, obviously that would work. For the second one, you could, technically speaking, say how long did it take you to figure out your job. In this case, I wouldn't say it because your job is already there. So that's okay. It certainly works. Another option here, Alessia just gave it to us, is to settle into. I think that also works perfectly. Exactly. Good. 3. Let's see, Clara. What is a skill that you have picked up, yep, at your current job, and did you learn it fast? Very good. All right, great, Marco. Perfect. And 4, have you ever felt the desire to, good, Clara, give up on something at work when things became too difficult? Great, guys. Thanks for all the answers. So when you have too much to do, how do you keep up with your workload? Exactly. Very nice. Yeah, and of course, we do have other possibilities that we could use here. I mean, these are the ones that we just introduced now. But see, for that last one, another one that comes to mind is when you have too much work to do, how do you stay on top of, to stay on top of something? How do you handle your workload? Anyway, we have loads of different ways of saying it. So yeah, guys, really, really nice job here. So we only have a couple minutes, so obviously we don't quite have time for a case study, but really nicely done. I'm just going to do a final sort of like, run through these slides, making sure that we touch on everything one more time. So couple things. Okay, so prerequisite, you said that this is the same as in Italian. Okay, keep up with, we're going to see in a second. To hit the ground running is when you start something new and you start it, quickly, you start it efficiently, you're already providing plenty of contribution. To win over can be to convince or to bring someone to your side in a certain way. Then we saw some of these different expressions that we have right here, right? So to figure something out is to find a solution, to understand something that is complex. To get on with is to have a good relationship or to cooperate, which can also be, as Marco said, get along with. To settle into means to feel at home, feel comfortable someplace or in a situation. Run into is to encounter, especially when you don't expect it. To pick up, usually referring to a skill, it means to learn, to obtain. Give up is to stop, and to keep up with is to maintain a certain pace so that you are, you are together with something else that is developing. Okay. Let me just see if there are any other questions that you guys asked that I'm not missing. Yeah, here and there, we talked about this one, which means occasionally, sometimes. Okay, I think that's mostly it, guys. And also mortified, horrified, which can be a situation which you're sorry. Yeah, okay. So we are at the end of our webinar for today, guys. Thank you, Marco. I'm glad you found it useful. As always, if you guys would like to take a picture, okay, so this was the main language that we touched on today. So feel free to take a picture of this page so you have it with you. And try to incorporate them slowly, all right? You don't need to start using all of them, but, try in the different focus activities in your lessons. Or even at home, you can practice this by yourself. Just talk to yourself and just incorporate them into your sentences. Thank you all for the participation. Really good contributions. Nice accuracy from everyone. Really, really nicely done. Okay, have a lovely evening, guys, and hope to see you all soon. Bye.